Here we're going to look at simplifying surds, and to do that we're going to use this rule here, which is the square root of a times b is equal to the square root of a times the square root of b. Now, it's useful to know at least the first 12 square numbers for this topic. These are written here, so this is basically 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, etc. all the way up to 12 squared. It's a good idea if you're getting stuck on one of these questions to just maybe write these out quickly at the top of your page, and then you can use that in the way I'm going to show you. So we'll start off with the square root of 12. Now the first step for simplifying a surd is to find the highest square factor. So the highest one of these numbers that will divide exactly into 12. In other words, the highest one of these that's a factor of 12. Now 12 on this number line would sit between the 9 and the 16, so we'll start here and we work our way down the list. And we work our way down the list because we're trying to find the highest square factor, so we want to come across the biggest one first. So does 9 go exactly into 12? No. Does 4 go exactly into 12? And the answer is yes. So 4 is the number I'm looking for here. That is my highest square factor. And 4 multiplies with 3 to get 12. So if we know it's 4 3s are 12 and 4 is my square factor, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to write that as the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, which is equal to the square root of 4 times 3, which is the square root of 12. Now the reason I put the square number first, in other words, out of the 2, the 4 times the 3, I put the 1 from the list up here at the front, is because I can actually find the square root of that quickly. So the square root of 4 we know is 2, so the square root of 4 becomes 2, and the root 3, you can't really do that without a calculator, so that's just going to stay as root 3. And that then is the surd in its simplest form. We'll do the same with the next one, root 48 here. So remember, I want the highest square factor of 48. So 48 would be between these two numbers. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to go down the list so I find the highest factor first. So does 36 go into 48 exactly? No. 25? No. 16? Yes. That's 16 times 3 is 48. So because 48 is 16 times 3, I'm going to write root 16 and root 3. Okay, and that's my 16 times 3 there. Now, again, the one with the square number goes first. So the 16 goes first because that's the square number. And it goes at the front because I can take the square root of 16 quite easily. The square root of 16 is 4. And again, the square root of 3, I can't do. So that's going to stay as root 3. So 4 times root 3. And that's in simplest form. We'll come to the last one now, and this one's slightly different because we've got this 4 multiplying root 72. Now the surd part I'm simplifying is just the root 72 here, and this 4 is just multiplying it. So on the next line I'm going to go straight down and I'm going to put in that 4 times whatever root 72 splits into. Now again, highest square factor first, so 72 is between these two numbers, so go down the list. Does that go into 72 exactly? Does that? Does that? And the answer here is yes. 36 times 2 is 72. So because that's 36 times 2, I'm going to write root 36 root 2. So root 36 root 2. And you'll notice again I'm putting the square number from that list at the front, the root 36, because I can change that into a whole number because it's the square root of a square number. Now that will become 4 times. The square root of 36 is 6, so that's become 6. And the root 2, I can't do that without a calculator again, so that's just going to stay as root 2. And then what I've got here is 4 lots of 6 root 2. Now if I've got 4 times this, it's just the 4 times the 6. So it's 4 times 6, it's 24. That means I've got 24 lots of root 2. And that then is in its simplest form. What we can do now is if you want to pause the video here, you can try these 3 questions, and then when you're ready, press play. If you want to just try one at a time and press play after each one, that's also fine. Pause the video here. And now that you've unpaused it, we'll go through this one here. So root 50. Again, as I said, it's a good idea if you don't have the square numbers or you don't have a good knowledge of them, quickly write them up at the top of the page and we can use them to help us with this. So root 50, first of all, 50 sits about here, so we'll start going down the list. Does that go into 50 exactly? Does that go into 50 exactly? Does that go into 50 exactly? And this is the first one we can say yes for. Okay, so 25 times 2 is 50, so the root 50 can be split into 25 times 2, so root 25, root 2. And again, you'll note I'm putting the square number at the front because I can actually find the square root of 25. So the square root of 25 is just 5, and the root 2 part we can't do, so it stays as root 2, and that's then in its simplest form. Part B, we have root 45, and again that sits there in that list, so let's go down the list so we find the highest factor, or the highest square factor first. So does 36 go into 45? No. 25? No. 16? No. 9? Yes. 9 goes into 45, it's 9 times 5, So I'm going to put the square number first, so it's root 9 times root 5. And remember, the only reason we're doing that is because 9 times 5 is 45, and then we can actually find the square root of the square number. So the square root of 9 we should know is just 3, and the square root of 5 we can't do, that's going to remain as root 5 there. Okay, and that's that simplified. The last one here is 3 root 200. So let's have a quick look at the 200 part here. We could keep going with this list, but 200 I kind of know which one that's going to be, so I'm happy enough with this list. That doesn't go into it, that doesn't go into it, 100 does. Okay, so 100 goes into 200 twice, so that root 200 is going to become root 100 root 2, but we've also got this 3 at the front, so that's going to be 3 times root 100 root 2. Now again, you can see this part here, 100 times 2 is 200, and that's just me splitting up that into two parts. We can take the square root of 100, the square root of 100 is 10, so that becomes 3 times just 10 root 2, and then 3 times 10 root 2 would be 30 lots of root 2. And that's the last one fully simplified.